Today, I'm going to talk a little bit about unemployment. And my goal here is, once again, as I have been doing over the last couple of weeks, just to encourage you to think about statistics in a different way. Think about what you're presented in perhaps the less obvious, less direct way, and get into some deeper analysis about that. So, my attempt here is not to explain away our current recession or the unemployment rate in general, but simply to give you another way of looking at the data, and you can decide for yourself what you think. So, start with this. So what you have here is a graph that shows basically a bunch of recessions. All these lines represent individual recessions, and weeks from the peak employment prior to the recession. So obviously in 2008 we reached a time of peak employment where a great majority of the United States was employed and our unemployment rate was really low. We start the graph there, and it slowly goes down. You'll notice that we're about 6% under at peak. Our unemployment is about 6% less than it was at its peak. And this gives you a somewhat bleak view, perhaps, of the current market conditions. What's more interesting is if you line them all up. Instead of going from peak employment, go from peak unemployment, looking at it like this, and you get an even bleaker picture. What are some of the things that you notice from this graph about today's recession versus previous recessions? Just glaringly obvious.
A lot more unemployment.
Okay, a lot more unemployment. That's true. What else?
It's lasting a little longer.
Okay, it's lasting a little bit longer. All right, so first off, there's a lot more, but there have been worse times. But the big thing that this graph is really showing you is, look, I mean, it's lasting longer. As a lot of these kind of pick back up, we're actually kind of stagnant at about 9% unemployment. And exactly that is represented by this chart, which was published in the New York Times just a couple weeks ago, which shows the average duration of unemployment in weeks in the United States of America, as reported by the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics. And you'll notice that this goes back down to 1948 and to today, and it looks pretty bad. Because the average duration of unemployment is now above 40 weeks. I think it's now above 41 weeks, as a matter of fact. So anybody have any, you see a graph like this, absolutely astounding, right? What are potential causes of this? What does this make you think?
Technology replacing employees.
Okay, so maybe it's what Harvey says, which is technologies and replacing employees. It's causing it to be harder to get jobs. Definitely a potential and probably a factor in here to a certain extent. However, you imagine that that would also have been a piece of the 2001 recession.
Every recession.
Well, yeah, every recession, but especially the 2001 recession. And it seems like unemployment did get a little bit longer than average, but not astoundingly like this most recent one. So technology has probably not advanced that much in the past 10 years.
Outsourcing?
Okay, outsourcing. So globalization is going on right now. That could definitely play into it. But again, you'd expect that globalization would have an effect on the 2001 economy as well. So during that recession, you'd also expect that globalization would have a big impact. And overall, you'd expect there to be just generally a positive trend as we move more and more towards globalization. More and more people should be unemployed for a longer and longer period of time. However, both of those, I'm not discounting, are probably factors here.
Well, as you showed in the last graph, like the recession duration is a lot longer than previously seen in other recessions. So, I mean, as the recession is longer, we expect people to be out of work longer.
Okay, so the recession is longer, so you'd expect people to be out of work longer. That's certainly true, but you can make the argument that the recession is longer because, and by virtue of the fact that people are out of the job longer. So one of our primary benchmarks of whether or not it is a recession is where unemployment's at. So if unemployment's high, we tend to think that we're in a recessionary period. So those two are highly correlated. Yeah?
Just out of curiosity, what is the median duration of unemployment?
I don't know that, actually. But I imagine it's right around 40. This is not skewed too much to the long end. I'm sure there's a little bit of skew to the long end, but this is not too bad.
You can only skew the data up to a certain point, because at some point you no longer get to be called unemployed. You're just not counted.
Right. Yeah. That's more than 2 years now, but yeah.
I mean, this is include people who are not in the job